Several people dead after a military helicopter collided with a passenger plane near Washington, D.C. We will have the latest look at that scene and tell you what our local leaders are saying about airport safety.
Plus, the Department of Justice under former President Biden expanded a price-fixing lawsuit to include 6 major landlords. We'll speak with a local expert on what that could mean for the cost of your rent ahead.
And take a look at clouds and radar as we continue to see a few showers still out towards the eastern counties, but things clearing up. I'll tell you what to expect in your first morning weather.
In-depth, investigative. This is KXAN News at Noon.
Today, search and rescue efforts have unfortunately now switched to recovery operations. As leaders announced today, there are no survivors in a tragic crash in the Washington, D.C. area.
This is a live look out of the Potomac River where we have been checking in on this heartbreaking news all morning. As we head into the afternoon hours, first responders are still out there. They have so far recovered the bodies of nearly 30 people at last check. If you are just now tuning in with us, a military helicopter collided with an American Airlines jet near Reagan National Airport last night. Both of these aircraft in total had at least 67 people on board. The plane, which is now in 3 pieces in the river there, is a regional jet. It was coming from Wichita, Kansas. It was carrying 60 passengers and 4 crew members. We're still waiting to learn the names of those people who were killed. But what we do know right now is that figure skaters from both the U.S. and Russia were on board this plane returning from a training camp held in Wichita.
The federal government has also announced that the Black Hawk helicopter carried 3 people on a training flight. This morning, D.C.'s mayor held a press conference alongside the new transportation secretary and other local first responders.
We are now at a point where we are switching from a rescue operation to a recovery operation. At this point, we don't believe there are any survivors from this accident. And we have recovered 27 people from the plane and 1 from the helicopter.
I want to express my sincere condolences for the accident that happened at DCA last night. We're absolutely heartbroken for the family and loved ones of the passengers and crew members, and also for those that were on the military aircraft. Our focus right now is doing everything that we can to support all of those involved and also the PSA Airlines team. This is devastating. We are all hurting incredibly.
Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth said the Pentagon and the Army are investigating the crash along with other federal investigators. Airport officials say Reagan National Airport did reopen this morning. The main runway there has been ranked the busiest in America with more than 800 daily takeoffs and landings, according to the local officials. About an hour ago, President Donald Trump spoke about that disaster, including taking shots at requirements to work as an air traffic controller.
We must have only the highest standards for those who work in our aviation system. I changed the Obama standards from very mediocre at best to extraordinary. You remember that. Only the highest aptitude, they have to be the highest intellect and psychologically superior people were allowed to qualify for air traffic controllers. That was not so prior to getting there when I arrived in 2016.
That's just a bit of that press conference from earlier this morning. We do want to be clear, this investigation is in the early stages. We do not have confirmed details about the cause of this crash. However, we have followed nationwide concerns about airport safety, from congested airspaces to a shortage of air traffic controllers in cities across the country.
It's been a focus for several federal lawmakers, including Virginia's Senator Tim Kaine, who spoke to national media this morning talking about his concerns with the congested airspace in the D.C. area. Now, Texas Congressman Lloyd Doggett has been openly critical of the Federal Aviation Administration and its handling of staffing shortages. In December, you may remember we told you about how understaffing led to a ground delay for several flights at Austin's airport just last month. At the time, Congressman Doggett told us the situation is worse than when he first started looking into it more than a year ago. KXAN's Barrett Tryon just spoke to the congressman about his concerns over air safety earlier today. And Barrett, talk to us about what he had to say.
Yeah, we asked him about how he has been pushing for safety changes at airports, including locally at Austin Bergstrom International. Now, one of the biggest pushes has been for more air traffic controllers, as you mentioned. There is a nationwide staffing problem, and Congressman Doggett has repeatedly questioned what the government is doing to fix it. It is a request, though, that he says has been largely ignored for months. He talks about those near misses at AUS and the warning about what could happen in the future.
To avoid this kind of mishap, we're at about half of what the FAA has said should be the number of air traffic controllers here, and we need to increase that margin of safety to avoid having a near miss turn into a catastrophe.
Now, you might remember all of this is happening while the FAA is actually searching for a new leader. That could end up taking months in itself. The head of the government agency announced last month that he was stepping down. Now, coming up later tonight on KXAN, a closer look at how staffing is affecting the state's largest airports as the number of travelers continues to break records.
First warning weather with meteorologist Freddie Fela.
We take a look now at what's left from the stormy morning that we had so far. Clearer conditions now farther out towards the hill country. The last of the showers now out towards the eastern counties. And even then, there's only just a few areas that are still seeing a few spots of drizzle and light showers. And they're mostly on the eastern fringes of the county. We zoom out a bit so you can see the 24-hour rainfall totals. And this is just a radar estimate. Gives you an idea of where we saw the most rainfall overall. From Llano to Burnett, Lampasas, and San Saba, we saw the heaviest showers at this point. A few more picking up as you got out towards Blanco, Dripping Springs, Georgetown, Round Rock, and Austin before things really started to calm down as it moved out towards the eastern counties. Here's a live look at our Covington Cellars camera in High Texas. Temperatures out there now back up to 63 degrees. Temperatures moving up pretty quickly. 58 in Austin, 61 in Georgetown, 62 in Mason, San Marcos at around 63, Bastrop and Giddings at 58 degrees. Coming up, we're going to be talking about the showers as they move their way on out, the sunnier skies that are now settling into our area, and the weekend forecast. That's all coming up in just a moment.
Freddie, thanks so much. We want to show you a live look at Austin City Council. They are having their first meeting of the new year. There are some new council members taking their seats on the dais for the first time. And we expect them to accept a federal grant, which could bring roughly $7 million for affordable housing initiatives.
And we know that's just one of many things on the agenda today, but one of those initiatives would update our city's housing plan that was adopted back in 2017 called the Strategic Housing Blueprint. The city's housing department previously told us that blueprint needs updates because of how much Austin has changed in the last 8 years. Some of the events that could alter those plans, of course, include the impact of the COVID pandemic, changes that we've seen of late to the city's land development code, and the creation of a new homeless strategy office. We know our City Hall reporter Grace Reeder and our KXAN team is following the latest for us out of City Hall. They're going to have updates throughout the day.
As rent and affordable housing do remain top of mind here in Austin, we are following an ongoing lawsuit from the U.S. Justice Department. It accuses 6 large corporate landlords for allegedly coordinating to keep people's rent high by using both an algorithm to help set rents and privately sharing sensitive information with their competitors to boost profits. Joining us today, Jake Wegman with the University of Texas. Thank you so much for being here.
Thanks for having me on.
Okay, let's start with this lawsuit. Give us some context and really why does it matter to folks here in Austin?
Well, generally we hope that housing is a competitive market, right? So we don't want it to be something like aircraft manufacturing where there's just basically 2 manufacturers, right? Boeing and Airbus. Housing's not supposed to be like that. You're supposed to have lots of different choices. If you don't like an apartment building over here, ideally you can go down the street over there and find a different one that offers a better deal. And the concern here is that this piece of software called RealPage is collecting information from lots of different landlords who shouldn't really be talking to each other, but they're acting as sort of this hub, and then they are recommending rents that the landlords set for their tenants. And then the concern or the accusation is that if they are calling on these rents to be a little bit higher than they otherwise would be, even if a few apartments stay kind of vacant more so than normal, then that would have an upward pressure effect on the market. That's the concern. That's the heart of the lawsuit.
Yeah, thank you for that context. But we also want to point out, of these 6 corporate landlords that are facing this lawsuit from the DOJ, they include some companies that operate many properties here in Austin.
Yes, indeed. Yeah, one of them is Greystar, and Greystar may be the largest, or if it's not the largest, way up there in terms of the largest owners of multifamily rental housing in the entire country, and they have just dozens of properties around our region.
We know each of these companies has come out with different statements in response to the DOJ allegations, but talk to us about what happens next. We know these lawsuits can take quite a while, but what kind of impacts could renters here in Austin see?
Yeah, so I want to downplay how big of a deal this is if you're a renter in Austin. I'll start by saying I don't have a dog in the hunt. Personally, if something happens and RealPage has to either withdraw its product or make some changes, that sounds fine to me. Price fixing is bad. We don't like to see that. On the other hand, rents have been dropping in Austin over the last couple of years. And companies like Greystar have been building large numbers of new apartment complexes. So they're not acting like they're price fixing, but I guess I would say every little bit helps. And if there's a marginal benefit to the RealPage product being withdrawn, then great. But if it does get withdrawn, I wouldn't count on that to magically make housing far more affordable in Austin than it already is.
Now, your research at UT, we want to focus on that for a second because it really does zero in on affordability for housing. Will you talk to us about, right now in our market, rents are actually dropping on average?
Yeah, I think that may not be completely widely understood, but it's true. Austin has blown the roof off in terms of how much multifamily housing we've built since the pandemic, and that has brought rents down. And I know in affordable housing, we're not supposed to talk about good news because everything is terrible. And of course, there are a lot of big problems. It's not like everything has magically been solved. But that is good news. Tenants have gotten real relief from these rent drops.
So much to follow, and we know we will be watching this lawsuit, but also just the trends that you're tracking and seeing. So thank you so much for putting this into context for us so we can better report on it. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for covering it. It's an important set of issues.
Jake Wegman with the University of Texas. We appreciate your time. We do want to note the deadline to pay your property taxes is tomorrow. In our last hour of the show, we sat down with the Travis County Property Tax Assessor's Office to talk about resources if you're cutting it close to that deadline and why your bill may likely be higher this year. You can find that full interview on our website, KXAN.com, just a few minutes after our show wraps up here.
All right, I'm here with Dr. Pamela Owen, who is the Associate Director of the Texas Science and Natural History Museum. Thank you for joining me. We know on the 1st that the Texas Wildlife Day is being hosted at the museum. Walk us through what that is.
So Texas Wildlife Day is the museum's celebration of our wild neighbors. And so I actually founded this particular public event 10 years ago. And so as the museum has changed and we kind of emerged, kind of post-COVID, we thought we need to bring Texas Wildlife Day back to the museum and back to the public. And so we are celebrating all creatures of the wild. That includes insects and mammals and birds and amphibians and reptiles. And by partnering with the Texas Master Naturalists, the education team here at the museum, and the Master Naturalists, and a wildlife educator, we're going to provide the public an opportunity to learn a lot more about our local wildlife. Because, when we think about, our wild neighbors, we may not understand everything about them. And kind of living in a more urban environment, we find that our young people are kind of losing touch with nature. And so a way to kind of encourage the care and the respect for wildlife is to have a big public event. And this will include everything from hands-on activities, everything from learning about insects and getting a temporary tattoo, to making a bat puppet while you're learning about our local Mexican free-tailed bats, to using a handheld microscope to see the fine details of the fur of mammals or the feathers of birds. And so it's very family friendly. We do have some live animals making an appearance, so some raptors and snakes and turtles. And so, again, it's a day to celebrate the wildlife that, we've come to know and love, or, you will eventually come to know and love here at Texas Science and Natural History Museum.
So where can people get tickets and learn more about this event?
You can get tickets online on our website and also learn more about the event. We're also on social media, so check our Instagram and Facebook. And of course, tickets will be available at the door, so you can make that snap decision Saturday morning and get the family together and head on down to Texas Science and Natural History Museum and pick up tickets for Texas Wildlife Day, which starts at 10 a.m. on Saturday.
So we've been monitoring what's been happening this morning, especially after all the showers that have come in. And as you can tell, things are much calmer now, especially for a majority of the hill country moving into the metro. We zoom out a bit more so you can see where the storms and showers are now. Houston up farther through the eastern portion of the state of Texas, getting into the corner there of Oklahoma and into Arkansas as well, where we see plenty of showers and a few warnings popping up as well. Current temperatures, 64 degrees in Fredericksburg, 63 in Mason, 58 in Austin, 63 in San Marcos, and 60 degrees as you get out towards LaGrange. After the morning we've had so far and the rainfall that we've received, which is in some areas over 2 inches, temperatures are expected to move back up, especially with the sunshine that we're receiving now. Any of the lingering showers are pretty much just going to end over the next couple of minutes, and we'll still see a few clouds rolling back in. As we get out towards the evening hours, about 8 p.m. to 9 p.m., things clearing out. We get clearer skies for tonight and temperatures dropping back down into the 40s. So take a look at your drive-in forecast for this afternoon. Even as we hit about 6 p.m., temperatures still at about 66 degrees. By 8 p.m., 58, and by 10 p.m., we're at about 55 degrees. But there it is. You see the clouds starting to break apart a bit more, and we're looking at mostly clear as we reach the overnight hours. Temperatures into about 48. Winds coming in from the west-southwest at 5 to 10 miles per hour. Over the next couple of days, it's going to be warm out there into the 70s. I accidentally clicked the wrong box, but you can see how we hit about 71 on Friday, 75 as we get to Saturday and Sunday, and then 80 degrees as we reach out towards Monday. The clearer skies, that's what's going to help bring our temperatures back up. Winds shifting coming in from the south. Lows in the 40s as we get into Monday. Lows in the 50s as we get into Tuesday. Lows in the 60s. And we'll flirt with 80 degrees Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. No chance of rain. And unfortunately, starting off the month, very, very warm.
Freddie, thanks so much. Coming up, a federal building in Austin is now being used to house undocumented migrants who have been arrested. Our investigative team takes a closer look at this next.
Welcome back, everyone. A developing story our investigative team first broke on KXAN.com yesterday as deportations are sweeping the nation under President Trump's new administration.
KXAN investigator Matt Grant has learned a downtown Austin federal building, the J.J. Pickle Federal Building on East 8th Street, is being used as a detainment center for immigration and customs enforcement.
A high-level source with knowledge of immigration enforcement action confirms ICE is keeping detainees who may be deported here at the J.J. Pickle Federal Building behind me. We're told 26 immigrants have been held here since Sunday when ICE began conducting enhanced targeted operations in Austin as part of a nationwide effort, sparking protests that day at the Capitol, which is about a half-mile away. According to published reports, this same building has been used before to detain immigrants back in at least 2017 and 2018. The two-block complex of federal buildings houses offices for Homeland Security, whose vehicles are out in front, along with ICE and the district office of Democratic Congressman Lloyd Doggett, who earlier reacted to our reporting.
I don't have specifics on it. They do have a holding facility in the basement there, but I do not get notice of ICE actions or those they apprehend.
Outside earlier, we did see an unmarked white bus that we were unable to trace. It's unclear if it's related to any transport or enforcement actions. The building was named after the late Democratic Congressman Jake Pickle, who was involved in major social reforms, including being one of a handful of Southern lawmakers to vote for the 1964 Civil Rights Act signed by President Lyndon B. Johnson, who also had offices in this building during and after his presidency. We reached out to ICE and DPS for comment, but did not immediately hear back. A spokesperson for Governor Greg Abbott tells me the governor, quote, fully supports using every tool and strategy to aid in the Trump administration's deportation of illegal immigrants. In downtown Austin, Matt Grant, KXAN investigates.
Matt, thank you. Our team also reached out to several local leaders, including Austin Mayor Kirk Watson. We did not hear back from him. Mayor Pro Tem Vanessa Fuentes told us in part, while civil immigration enforcement is a federal matter, our focus remains on ensuring that every Austinite, regardless of background, feels safe. She went on to say, we will continue prioritizing public safety and affordability while standing firm in our commitment to a city that welcomes and protects all who call it home. Still to come here on KXAN News at noon, more than 60 lives have been lost in the deadly plane collision over the D.C. area. Coming up, we'll take you to the latest on the recovery efforts there.
And the first bill under the Trump administration has now been signed. What comes next now that the Lake and Riley Act is officially law?
In-depth, investigative. This is KXAN News at noon.
This afternoon, recovery operations are happening as leaders announced today there are no survivors in a tragic crash between a military helicopter and a passenger plane in the D.C. area.
We are taking a live look now out at the Potomac River, where first responders are still working to recover the bodies of people who are on board both of the aircraft involved in this incident. Washington correspondent Vinay Simlot has the latest from Ronald Reagan National Airport. Vinay.
Avery Will, a shocking morning here at Ronald Reagan National Airport. This airport serves about 25 million people, and if you fly in or out, you're used to seeing those military helicopters. But as you said, D.C. Fire and EMS do not believe anyone survived that crash. The flash over the Potomac River shows the deadly crash of an American Airlines flight and a military helicopter.
Do I think this was preventable? Absolutely.
Both President Donald Trump and Transportation Secretary Sean Duffy say the crash could have been avoided, but wouldn't say why. The American Airlines CRJ 700, operated by PSA Airlines, was on final approach to Reagan National Airport. The Transportation Secretary says on a normal flight path, the military helicopter, Secretary Duffy says, was also flying a standard flight path, and the helicopter knew the passenger plane was there. The American Airlines CEO says the commercial flight crew was experienced.
We don't know why the military aircraft came into the path of the PSA aircraft.
Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth says the military crew was also experienced on a yearly nighttime training flight.
We anticipate that the investigation will quickly be able to determine whether the aircraft was in the corridor and at the right altitude at the time of the incident.
D.C. Mayor Muriel Bowser says the NTSB is now leading the investigation. In southwest Washington, D.C., police cruisers escorted the vans from the recovery site. From a crash, D.C. fire officials believe nobody survived.
These responders found extremely frigid conditions. They found heavy wind. They found ice on the water.
And now that the NTSB has taken over this investigation, we expect to hear from them in about an hour and a half. Now, the Secretary of Transportation, Sean Duffy, says he thinks he has a good idea of what happened, but he's waiting to learn more. He also says he believes the U.S. has the safest aviation network in the entire world.
Lots to watch, Vinay. Thank you for tracking it for us. We do want to ask, those officials indicated flights are coming in and out of a very busy airspace in this D.C. area. So give us a picture for us here in Texas of what is around the airport there.
Yeah, where I'm standing here in Terminal 1, right across the runway and across the river from here is Joint Base Anacostia Bowling. The Pentagon is less than 2 miles away from here. You often see it when you're flying into Reagan National Airport. And then to my left, you have the White House, the National Mall, a lot of important buildings there for our government. So a lot of restricted airspace and a lot of air traffic coming through this area. Senators from Virginia have warned time and again that this area is too congested.
Panay Simlat reporting live for us again from Reagan National. Thanks so much for joining us again. We appreciate it.
First warning weather with meteorologist Freddie Fela.
The latest drought monitor has been released early this morning, and as we can tell, a lot more red on this map. Severe, still pretty much remaining the same, and moderate still there as well for the eastern counties and out towards the west as well. So this is the one area we're going to be watching overall. We take a look at satellite and radar, and most of the showers now pretty much gone. We're left with sunnier skies out towards the hill country, cloudy conditions when you reach out towards Austin and the metro, especially out towards the eastern counties, and a few little light showers that's left over. This is a live look at our Allied Medical Emergency Room camera in Dripping Springs. We're still seeing plenty of cloud coverage at this time. Still seeing temperatures in the 50s in the metro, but everywhere else now in the 60s. 63 in San Marcos, sunny skies in Fredericksburg, and 64 there. Georgetown at 61, and Bastrop at around 60 degrees. A lot of stormy conditions this morning. Things now clearing up as we look out towards your pollen count as well. Low categories for mold, elm, cedar, and oak, but an upward trend on elm and oak with a downward trend on mold as well. Coming up, we're going to be talking about the showers as they start to move their way on out, the sunnier skies that are now starting to filter in, and your weekend forecast because temperatures are heading back up. I'll tell you how warm it'll be next week coming up.
Freddie, thank you. Drying out now, but we know the conditions for many people on the way into work or school this morning were treacherous, rain making the roads dangerous. One person we know died after a vehicle struck them this morning in northwest Austin.
Emergency crews responded to the intersection of Jollyville Road and Thunder Creek Road shortly after 6 this morning. First responders attempted life-saving measures, but the person was pronounced dead at the scene. Austin Travis County EMS says the person was an adult, but no other details have been released so far. Austin police are investigating.
Texans near San Antonio experienced a 4.5 earthquake on Wednesday night. This is according to the United States Geological Survey. The earthquake happened just before 9:30 last night in Falls City. The USGC's data shows there were reports of people even closer to our way in Central Texas feeling the effects of this quake. To other news now, an Austin man is in custody, accused of smuggling dozens of guns into Mexico. The Justice Department says this happened in Eagle Pass on January 19th. Now, we do know court documents say Customs and Border Protection officers are pointing to a Victor Diego Avenida. He had 40 rifles, they say, 6 shotguns, 1 pistol, 80 magazines, and 2 rifle scopes stored in 2 large duffel bags. Investigators say the 39-year-old claimed he was being paid about $100 for each gun he smuggled into Mexico. They add 11 weapons belonged to him, they believe. He does face up to 10 years in prison if he's convicted.
President Donald Trump signed his first bill into law. It's called the Laken-Riley Act, and it's intended to target undocumented migrants accused of crimes. The law requires U.S. officials to detain immigrants accused of theft, burglary, or shoplifting. Laken-Riley was killed last February by an undocumented migrant who had previously been arrested.
There's no amount of change that will ever bring back our precious Laken. Our hope moving forward is that her life saves lives.
The president also announced a new executive order yesterday to open Guantanamo Bay to detain migrants who are here illegally. He says the facility can hold 30,000 people, which would double the capacity for U.S. migrant detention. The bill drew support from 46 Democrats in the House. We're speaking of the Laken-Riley Act, and 12 in the Senate. Democrats against the bill say this law will take away due process rights for migrants, including minors or recipients of the Deferred Action for Childhood Arrivals, or DACA program.
President Trump is receiving a positive approval rating in a new poll just out. This is the first Emerson College polling national survey of the second Trump administration. Slightly less than half of those surveyed approve of the president's first week on the job. 49 to 41 is the split, with 10% of those surveyed being neutral. You can see some of those statistics here on your screen. Now, there's been a change in the way Americans also view the direction of the country. 52% believe things are on the right track. Emerson pollsters note just earlier this month, that number was more than 2/3 of people surveyed, saying the country was on the wrong track. The top issue for people in this poll is still the economy at 35%. Immigration comes in second, only hitting at 16%. We have a breakdown of this poll. You can explore the numbers and see more about how people feel in different age groups and different political affiliations. All of that with this story on KXAN.com.
The president signed a sweeping executive order that would prioritize and free up federal funding to expand school choice programs. His order impacts several federal departments and directs the Education Department to prioritize school choice programs through its discretionary grants. The order also has guidance to states about federal allocations to districts. Here in Texas, state lawmakers are fast-tracking a school voucher bill. Earlier this week, the Senate Education Committee voted to advance that legislation for a full vote in the Senate as soon as next week.
The latest nationwide report card shows America's students fell further behind in math and reading in the years after the pandemic. But at the Austin Independent School District, it appears students are returning to pre-pandemic levels.
The district says that student scores are higher than state peer districts and the national average. The National Assessment of Educational Progress tests reading and math proficiency on a sample of 4th and 8th grade students nationwide. The district says that Austin ISD's proficiency scores were higher than the state in 8th grade math and reading.
Scores in 4th grade math were higher than the national average. While most grades and subjects were not changed from 2019, 8th grade math scores were significantly lower than that time. An education researcher with the American Institutes for Research says that's a nationwide trend, and they say it's troubling.
All of the findings are an alarm bell, because when I look at these test results, I think about the future of these students, and we know that there are strong connections between how well students do on these tests and their opportunities later in life in college and the workforce. So to me, this is a 5-alarm fire.
Austin ISD also notes there appeared to be gaps in scores for marginalized and economically disadvantaged students. Still to come here on KXAN News at noon, how a man escaped from war with his family to become a neurosurgeon.
Welcome back, everyone, and thanks again for sticking with us on KXAN News at noon. We're showing you a live look from atop the KXAN studio at this point. You can see the clouds have started to clear out just a little bit. We are in store for some much warmer temperatures. Freddie's going to talk about timing and what we can expect next week when we could hit 80. From refugee to neurosurgeon, the inspiring tale of how a man from Guinea arrived in New York 22 years ago with the goal of becoming a doctor. Monica Morales has that story.
Dr. Yamaro Bari came here to Bellevue nearly 22 years ago. He was only 10 years old. He came here for a checkup. That's because it was free. This is one of the best public hospitals in the world, and now he's the one doing the checkup.
Sometimes even I can't believe it. I mean, coming from where I came from.
Dr. Amaro Berry has a full schedule as a neurosurgery first-year resident at Bellevue Hospital. Never an average day.
At all. I mean, it's always fascinating to walk through these doors and not know what to expect out of the day.
Dr. Berry says it was more than 2 decades ago he first walked through these doors as a patient in need.
Came here with nothing, with just $1 in a dream, and now we get to live our dream of helping other individuals get from sick to healthy. I think there's nothing more powerful than that.
A refugee from Guinea who arrived in New York City 22 years ago as a child, his family fled a civil war. His parents came to America wanting a better life for him and his siblings.
I knew education was the passport to my future.
His dad, a taxi driver, and his mom, a home health care aide. His mother was his biggest inspiration. telling Barry, if you're alive, you can always change your situation.
It takes a different type of motivation and perseverance to go from refugee to neurosurgeon, and I'm glad I had mentors.
A dad himself now, he hopes to inspire his son to not just dream big, but achieve big, too.
Future doctor of the family. Yeah, I got it.
Working now at the oldest hospital in the United States as one of the top teams of neurosurgeons in the world, his mission is to give back. Barry loves speaking and mentoring children, and his advice? If you believe it, you can achieve it.
Growing up, I never seen a physician that looked like me. Education saved my life, and now the change agent for my entire family. It's what will take my family from poverty to basically being able to live a life of basically the American dream, to say. I think education is the American dream.
And if you want more information about Bellevue Hospital, one of the best public hospitals in the world, just go to Monica Morales TV on all of our social media platforms, and we'll link you to that information and resources. At Bellevue Hospital, Monica Morales, Pix 11 News.
Thank you.
What a story.
Incredible personal story.
Like he said, the American dream come to life right there.
Yeah, big congrats to him. For anybody who is now looking outside, they're probably thinking, what in the world? I got woken up to pouring rain this morning. Now we see that sun coming out. I'm having a little bit of a whiplash here.
Yeah, and funny enough, we didn't get any severe thunderstorm warnings at all this morning, but there were still strong storms that came through. Thankfully, it was just heavy downpours. It was lightning that we saw, and getting that thunderstorm rolling. And in fact, if you're wondering how much rainfall many of you received in your neck of the woods, take a look. Mason County, about over 1.5 inches there, the same as you move farther up towards the north. In Fredericksburg, 1/15 of an inch of rain compared to Stonewall, where they saw 1/2 inch of rain. You get up towards about Johnson Creek near Llano. We're looking at about 3/4 of an inch there. In Johnson City, about 1.5 inches. But Marble Falls takes the cake at 2 inches there. We look out towards the metro area, Austin, close to 1 inch of rain there. The airport, only close to 3/4 of an inch there. You get out towards Dripping Springs, Lakeway, Lago Vista, all about 1 inch there, and then farther up towards the north as well. Georgetown, just over 1 inch too. We move out towards the eastern counties, a bit less as you move out into that region. The severity of the storms, or not severity, but the strength of the storms really started to fizzle out as it made its way into the eastern counties. That did allow for less rainfall. You will see up to about 3/4 of an inch of rain as you reach out towards farther into getting closer into Muldoon. So just keep that in mind. Now, all of this to say we needed the rainfall. I showed you the drought monitor a little while ago. I want to show you the comparison to last week as well. This is last week. Notice the extreme condition, which moves from Hayes County, a little bit of Blanco County, and into Travis County. Now, I want you to take a look at the latest one. It now encompasses all of Blanco County and portions of Gillespie County as well. So any rainfall we receive is great news. Unfortunately, it's all on its way out. All of us now just left with either sunnier skies out towards the hill country or cloudier conditions as you move out towards the eastern counties. Current temperatures 58 in Austin, 63 in Fredericksburg, 64 in Mason, San Saba at 64 as well. Georgetown at 61. And then we wrap around to the eastern counties. We're looking at about 60 degrees out there. That's it. It's all done. We'll see a few more clouds sticking around for the rest of the day today. Get out into the evening hours. Things clear out. We're left with clearer skies for the rest of the evening. So if you decide to head on out, temperatures will move back up to around 72 by 4 p.m., but then back down as we get into about 9 p.m. We're into the 50s. And if you're going to go outside and maybe do a bit of hiking, just know muddy conditions, slippery conditions, not only out on the trails, but on most of the sidewalks too. The sun will start to dry everything out, especially today into tomorrow as we look at sunny skies for Friday into Saturday. Temperatures heading back up to 80 degrees as we reach out towards Monday.
Thanks, Freddie. South by Southwest fans, get ready to purchase tickets for the stacked lineup coming in March. We'll tell you when tickets go on sale straight ahead.
And here's a look at what's coming up tonight on KXAN. At 7, it's Law and Order, followed by Law and Order SVU at 8, and then Found at 9. Join us back here for KXAN News at 10. Tickets for South by Southwest will go on sale tomorrow morning. General admission tickets will be available on Ticketmaster starting at 9 o'clock. Pre-sale tickets went on sale earlier this morning at the Moody Amphitheater. Country star Co Wetzel is kicking off the concert series this time with a performance on March 13th. That's followed by Grupo Frontera on March 14th, and then wrapping things up, dance music artist John Summit will take the stage on March 15th. Hard to believe that we are knocking on the door of another South by Southwest, but here it is again. Tickets going on sale.
Yeah, the year is flying by already, if you can imagine.
Even though January has felt like it's just crawling along.
It's been a long January. You know, I think it's been maybe 10 years since I've been to South by Southwest.
Okay.
Well, welcome back.
Yeah,
you're back here again. You got to do it up.
I feel like an assignment is due for South by Southwest.
Yes.
Dropping that hint in there. Let's take a look at temperatures for tonight. Should be at around 48 degrees, nice and cool. Winds coming in from the west-southwest at 5 to 10 miles per hour. And for the weekend, temperature should be in the mid-70s, 75 on Saturday, 75 on Sunday. But here's the key thing that you're going to notice: sunny and nice. Not only for Saturday and Sunday, but also leading into Monday as well, where we get enough sunshine and southerly winds to help get us back up to 80 degrees on Monday, and the possibility of hitting 80 on Tuesday and Wednesday as well. No rain in sight now. We are just left with nice, calm conditions. But hey, at least we have a great weekend ahead.
Those temperatures, unreal.
Yeah.
Wow. Oh my gosh. Okay, everybody, get ready for your weekend. But for now, we'll send you on your way and have you come back in about 30 minutes for another update. Enjoy the rest of your Thursday. Take care.